We are, as people, meaning-making machines, okay? So we make these assumptions and then we make it mean something about our situation, about ourselves, about our relationship, about our partners. And within 10 seconds, maybe even less, we have come up with this massive story, and now it's become part of our experience, part of our truth, part of our relationship history that we're going to hold on to and take into the next experience, the next conflict we have with them. And we start to let it pile up.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how easy it is for marriage to take a back seat. But unlike your parents' marriage, your marriage can feel good while raising kids and doesn't have to feel hard. It can look like having each other's backs, even flirting and looking forward to spending time with each other. And I'm here to help you. So join me here each week as we dive into what it takes for your marriage to become something you enjoy again, from how to handle conflict better and bringing that spark back into your relationship. If you're ready for your marriage to feel good again, this podcast is for you. Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. This episode is inspired by yet another conversation I had with someone about their marriage, about their partnership. And I am loving all this external inspiration coming over here. I love it when people share with me what's going on. It gives me way more ideas than just having to come up with what I think would help you. So I'm here for it. And as always, if you have any topics or suggestions on things that you want to hear me cover, send them on over on Instagram or shoot me an email, however you like to contact me. So this particular topic is something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize they're doing, but it is causing so much drama in your life that is preventable and definitely unnecessary. And it's something that once you know you're doing it, you can get way better about doing something about it, right? So here's the thing. How often have you been in a situation with your spouse where you're like just observing them and you notice that they're kind of standoffish or they're a little snippy, right? Or they're just not acting like themselves. They're not their usual selves where they're all chipper and normal, right? What normally happens when you notice this? You start to build this narrative inside your head of what is going on, right? And depending on how you're feeling, if you are well fed, if you are well rested, well, that's kind of funny, right? As a mom, well rested. I know it's possible, but sometimes it's very rare, especially if you have young kids. Anyway, or if you have a lot of stress going on, just lots of different variables. And if you are not doing well, if you have not developed the skill that I'm going to mention later, it is very easy to quickly make the worst of worst assumptions about why he's being like this. And a lot of times, you may even take it personally, right? Like, what's up your ass? Why are you acting like that? Why are you giving me attitude? Why aren't you, so-and-so, right? All of the things come to mind. Or, gosh, he's being so rude. Let me be rude back to him, because you're just mirroring what you're receiving. And you're assuming that he's doing it for a reason that has to do with you. Maybe he's mad at you. Maybe, whatever it is that your mind might be making up. But with all of these assumptions going on, you know what we suck at doing? We suck at confirming that they're actually true. We suck at that. We are, as people, meaning-making machines, okay? So we make these assumptions, and then we make it mean something about our situation, about ourselves, about our relationship, about our partners, right? And within 10 seconds, maybe even less, we have come up with this massive story, and now it's become part of our experience, part of our truth, part of our relationship history that we're going to hold on to and take into the next experience, the next conflict we have with them. And we start to let it pile up. We start to, what I used to call, for one of my OG clients, shout out to Gigi, we called her filing cabinet. Something would happen, whether her husband would look at her a weird way, or be short with her, or not be as excited to talk to her or see her, and she would just take each of these moments and file it away until the file cabinet was busting at the seams and couldn't fit anymore, and she would blow up on him. And a lot of times it would be over something small, and it's kind of like that metaphor or analogy, I always get those two mixed up, of the straw that broke the camel's back. It's like, I just can't take it anymore. And then out comes verbal diarrhea with your anger and your frustration and resentment. And meanwhile, he's standing there thinking you're crazy and not understanding what the hell just happened, because you just blew up over seemingly nothing, when really it's been a history of things that haven't been dealt with. Okay? If this is you, I have done this too. Okay? And many, many others. I'm sure if you talk to your friends, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I do that too. I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I totally am guilty of that also. Okay? This is just natural to us. We are so perceptive, and this is not the issue, right? It's great to be observant. It's great to notice changes in our partner's demeanor, right? The one skill, though, that needs to be partnered with this is to be observant of your thoughts. Instead of only being observant of what they're doing and trying to improve them, can you flip it around? Because remember, you only have control over yourself, right? Can you flip it around and notice what's going on inside of you? Can you flip it around and challenge your thoughts? Like, how true is this, right? If you're not familiar with Byron Katie, she has this framework where you are challenging your thoughts constantly. How do I know this to be true? So next time your husband gives you a weird look or ignores you, know that that might not be the thing that's going on. Maybe they're being short with you because they had a bad day, and it has nothing to do with you at all, right? We're human. We cannot be expected to be perfect all of the time. Shoot, we have many moments where we're losing it and we're like, right? And we don't want to be criticized every single time we don't sound happy. That would be an inauthentic life, right? Like, that's not what we're here to do. We get to have our human moments just like our kids. Sometimes we have off days. Sometimes we aren't so resilient and bounce back super quick. Sometimes it leaks out through how we're talking to people or how we look and appear, whatever, right? And what if your husband just didn't hear you because he's so all up in his thoughts? And it's not that he's actively ignoring you because he doesn't want to listen to you, but there's other stuff going on. And maybe that one thing that he said that you took offense to isn't actually what he meant. What if you just perceived what he said differently? Okay, so if you're going to be observant of what your partner is doing and allow it to bother you, I also want you to back that up with the skill of being observant of why that's bothering you. What about it is bothering you? Can you challenge the thought process that is initially flooding your system? Well, why do I think that happened? is that actually true, right? Because a lot of times our brains are going to try and make what we believe to be true. So it's going to cherry pick these moments to validate how we feel. So if you're feeling a certain way because of something that your partner did and you have been triggered by it, notice, what are you believing to be true? Are you believing that you don't matter? That he doesn't love you? That he doesn't care anymore? That he's, I don't know. What is it? There's usually a theme going on that your mind is trying to validate. Now, instead of keeping this experience fully internal and then just leaving the backlash for your partner to experience, what if after you have practiced the skill of observing yourself, your internal world of what is creating all this drama in you, what if you were to let your partner into that? Okay? So here's another bonus skill that I invite you to work on, is to learn to articulate what it is that you are observing and assuming. Okay? Because there is a difference between what you see and what you feel. Okay? It's kind of like the difference between opinion and fact, right? I know my first grader is learning this, and it's been so fun to see him distinguish the two, because as a kid, you're like, everything is fact. How I feel is fact. What I think is fact, right? But he's learning in school that there is a difference between fact and opinion. And in this situation, in these kinds of scenarios where you're being triggered and you are making up this narrative, obviously subconsciously, right? There is a difference between how you feel something is going and why it's happening versus the facts, right? What are the facts? The facts are things that you can actually visibly observe. So, for example, you didn't respond to me when I spoke to you. That's a fact. Versus, you ignored me. That's an unverified observance, right? That could be an opinion. In his mind, he could have been like, oh, I was planning in my head. I wasn't ignoring you. I actually didn't hear you. I didn't register that you were talking to me, right? And I'm sure you've had those moments too where someone's trying to talk to you and you're like in your own head and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't even realize that you were talking to me. I was not trying to ignore you. I'm so sorry, right? So I want you to do that in your scenario. Observe how you're feeling, observe the narrative, make it a thing. I feel like what we tend to do before we develop this skill, which it took me a while to develop this, okay? This is not like something that was like, oh yeah, I came out knowing how to do this, right? I wish. But before you develop this skill, we sometimes just like run with the instantaneous story that our minds build and how we feel. And we run with it as if it's like fact on fact on fact. It's like 1,000% truth and it's just undeniable. But once you start to develop this skill, you're going to be able to slow the process down and be like, wait a minute. How do I know this to be true? Is this actually what happened? How do I know this actually happened? What is fact versus my perception of what happened? Let's separate those, right? And when you can do that, it becomes so much easier to articulate and verify with your partner what the hell actually happened. Okay? Because there's your side, there's their side, and then there's the truth, right? So I feel like when you know what's truth, everything else can be talked about, right? You get to go to the conversation much more calmly, owning your assumptions so that you can have your partner verify what is truth and talk about that. That way, you're not going about your day assuming that everything you perceived is fact. Meanwhile, your spouse is like, what is happening here? Because they know their truth, right? And then they're observing you, like, why is she yelling and slamming cabinet doors and criticizing me and giving me attitude and not being herself? Okay? So If you are already excelling at being observant of the changes in your partner's behavior, can you now start to develop your skill of observing your thoughts, your feelings, distinguishing the differences between fact and perception, and then being able to articulate those things to your spouse so that they can actually provide more truth, more facts, so you can start to have a rational, calm conversation that is productive. Okay. This is yet another way you can start to have calmer conversations that actually go places that allow you to create solutions together and collaborate, rather than it seems like two different people having two different conversations, just missing each other because you're not understanding where you're each coming from, because both of you are coming from unverified truths, aka assumptions. Okay. This is such a big game changer, and I invite you to try this. Okay. If you have any questions at all, reach out to me. Better yet, if you are wanting support with developing this skill alongside all the other different things that can help you improve communication in your marriage so that you can develop authentic partnership that you can actually enjoy and feel the way you look like you feel in your family pictures, give me a shout. Okay. I would love to talk to you and talk about how coaching can help you. I work one-on-one as well as with you guys as a couple. So I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Let me know how this lands with you and what you are loving about this episode, what your biggest takeaway is. And of course, like I said, if you have a topic you want to hear me talk about, shoot me a message and I will catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. I would so appreciate that. And if you love what I share here, then you're going to love and want to join my free private Facebook community that's also called Marriage and Motherhood. I hope to see and connect with you in there. Otherwise, I'll catch you back here for the next episode. Bye!